Good morning, Melly. Hi. Okay, good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Yeski. Good morning,
Morning.
all. Welcome to our class. Good morning, Nadia. Okay, good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Ong. Good morning, Wildy. Good morning, Galen. Good morning, Nadia. Good morning, Melly. Good morning, Yeski. Okay, and again, welcome to our chemistry class for today. Okay, so before we begin with our lesson, let's try to look back first about the lessons that we have discussed last time. No? But before that, I was just reminded, I believe that your CM already explained to you that for the next month, for the next weeks, we are going to follow these blended learning. Although in some ways we are already doing this, no? Because I used to give you reading assignments. I also used to give you worksheets at home, and I also asked you to watch videos. But for this coming month, for this coming weeks, okay, what we're going to do, okay, before the BA2 is that we are going to concentrate on the blended learning. So why are we doing this? Okay. Now, basically, we are implementing the blended learning for you to have to become more independent in learning. Okay. Now, there are times that you will not be dependent, no, with your teachers. Okay, especially that you will be going to the university next school year. Okay. Now, I think the school had found this opportunity to do the blended learning for you to be trained on how to become more independent. Okay. Now, personally, this is my opinion. I also noticed that some of you are also dependent not only to your teachers, but dependent more on your classmates. Okay. Now, if you will be like this in the future, it will be very difficult for you when you step on the college or in the university. It's quite different. You really work hard not to become to be able to succeed in the university. I just remembered my former students when she came to the US. She was shocked. No, she said that she was totally shocked with the system because here in Indonesia, most of the time she depended on her teachers. However, when she was in the United States, she was just given a piece of paper having all the activities that she has to do for that particular day, and she was lost because she was not used to study independently. Okay, so I believe that this blended learning is a good opportunity for you to exercise and to be um, develop your skills of being an independent person. Okay, so yeah, that's the um, that will be our teaching learning process, on the succeeding weeks. No, we're going to use the blended learning, wherein your teachers will give you information about what are the things that you have to study for a certain time. And then for the face to face, just like the Zoom that we're having, we're going to discuss some points, no, meaning If you have questions, if you have things which are not clear for you, then that's the time that you will discuss it with your teachers. But basically, your teacher will not give much of the discussion and information. It will be your responsibility to learn. And basically, that's the responsibility of the students. Basically, that's your responsibility to learn by yourself. Okay? So your teachers are here to guide you. Your teachers are here to help you to understand, but still learning depends on you. Okay? So that is the point we're going to have for the succeeding weeks. Okay? So more independent learning. Okay? Okay, so now before we move on, let's have a short recap of what we have learned from the previous lessons. Okay, so we studied about the Born-Haber cycles. Now we said that the Born-Haber cycle is a special type of Hess cycle. Now this will help us to determine the lattice energy of ionic compounds. This will help us to determine how much energy is needed or released, okay, for an ionic for ionic compounds to form or to decompose. Okay, so we use this Born-Haber cycle. Now, basically, for the Born-Haber cycle, we always assume that the final product is a solid ionic compound. So basically, if we are referring to the solid ionic compound, meaning the process is always exothermic. Okay. Now, here is an example of a Born-Haber cycle, wherein, as you can see here, for us to determine the lattice energy, we should know what's the standard enthalpy change of formation and what are these different changes in the enthalpy as the ions are made from the elements in their standard states. Okay? So to determine the lattice energy, we should know the enthalpy change of formation and the enthalpy changes that involve in changing these elements into the gaseous ions. Okay? So then we are already studied, I mean, we have given an example, okay, on how to determine, okay, the enthalpy, the lattice energy, no? Okay, so given the lithium fluoride as our example, we're able to calculate the lattice energy of this ionic compound. Okay, so the first one, we have to convert sodium lithium, solid lithium, sorry, to gaseous lithium atoms. Okay, now in this case, we need the enthalpy change of atomization of lithium. Okay, then after we convert the lithium to gaseous lithium, then we take the first ionization energy of lithium, okay, so that lithium will change into gaseous lithium ions. Okay, so from solid lithium to gaseous lithium, and now into lithium ion, gaseous lithium ion. And to do that, we have to get the first ionization energy of lithium. We know that lithium is a metal, so we have to remove the electron from its outer shell, and that's what you call the ionization, right? The first ionization energy of lithium. So after we have converted gaseous lithium atoms to gaseous lithium ions, now we convert fluorine molecules to fluorine atoms. Okay, and then here we need the enthalpy change of atomization of fluorine. Okay, so we have to convert fluorine molecules to fluorine atom. Then after we convert fluorine atom, okay, and then after that we convert gaseous fluorine atom to gaseous fluoride ions. Now here, when we convert gaseous fluorine atoms to gaseous fluoride ions, we add electron, right? And that is what you call the first electron affinity of fluorine. Okay, so this process is what you call the first electron affinity. And then after we have done this, after we have changed the atom, the elements or the atoms to the gaseous ions, now we have to add all the values together. And then we will get this delta H sub 1. Okay. Now, the enthalpy change of formation of lithium fluoride is negative 16 kilojoules per mole. So we know that we have already have all the information. So by applying the Hess law, okay, by putting the figures, okay, we can say that the lattice energy of lithium fluoride is equal to the enthalpy change of formation of lithium fluoride minus the enthalpy changes, no, in the formation of atoms to changing atoms to gaseous ions. Okay, by putting all the values, we get 1049 or negative 1049 kilojoules per mole. So this is the lattice energy of lithium fluoride. Okay, we have done this. Now, for us to be able to see clearly what is happening in the Born-Haber cycles, we have to draw the energy level diagram. Okay, now this is how we draw the energy level diagram. Now remember, in our previous lessons, no, when we were in grade 11, we have, in grade 10, we have drawn the energy level diagram. If it is exothermic, then the product will be lower than the amount of energy. Now, if it's endothermic, the level of the product is higher than the reactant, right? Okay, so that is just to show you that is the um, direct energy level diagram. Now, in this case, for the Born-Haber cycle, now the energy level diagram is more detailed. Okay, it's more detailed. Okay, it is more detailed. So this is the Born-Haber cycle for lithium fluoride. Okay, so as you can see here, our step 1 is lithium solid and the fluorine molecules, okay, converted into lithium gas. Okay, and then we have fluorine gas. And then we convert the lithium to lithium ion. Okay. And then what happened here is that fluorine is changed into fluorine ion. And then we get the uh, lattice energy for the lithium fluoride. Okay. So basically, no, you have know this already. Okay. So this is the another example. We have the Born-Haber cycle of sodium chloride. So we know it's exothermic, right? So here, sodium plus chlorine gas will give you sodium chloride, right? We know this is the energy level diagram, no? When we convert sodium plus chlorine to form sodium chloride, right? Okay. Now to have that detailed um, cycle, okay, so we know that this sodium solid must be changed into sodium gas. Oh, sorry. There. Okay, so that's the second step. Okay, next, changing sodium gas into sodium ion. Or in this case, we follow first the atomization of chlorine. It doesn't matter no if it could be interchanged or what. No, it's just okay. Okay, so here both the elements or atoms are changed from their gaseous states, and then sodium gas to sodium ion. That's the first ionization energy of sodium, and then the electron affinity of chlorine, meaning chlorine gas is changed into chloride, into chloride, and then the lattice energy or the lattice enthalpy of sodium chloride when we add these two ions together. Okay, so this is the Born-Haber cycle energy level diagram of sodium chloride. Okay. Now I believe that I have already asked you to do an exercise about this one, right? So we're not going to deal with this more anymore because basically when I saw your answers are basically correct. So you know how to do this, right? Okay, make sure that you really know. Okay. And then after that, now you have applying the Hess law. Okay, you have to add and then basically put on the values. Now basically now the values will be given to you. Don't you worry. Okay, the values will be given to you. So it's just easy. Okay, but here now I just want you to realize that everything here, okay, must be mm, here now you can interchange the end of these steps, but it's just okay. But of course, no, make sure that you are using the correct values. Okay. Okay. So here is another example: the Born-Haber cycle of magnesium chloride. Okay, so now I think I have given this already in the worksheet that I have given you last time. Okay, so for today, what we're going to discuss is to determine some factors affecting the value of the lattice energy. Okay, what are the factors that can affect the value of the lattice energy? Okay, now basically, lattice energy arises from the electrostatic force, right? Between the attraction of the ions. Okay, so when they form the crystalline lattice, okay, the force that attracts these ions is what you call the electrostatic force. Okay, and the amount of electrostatic force or the amount of the attraction between these ions, okay, will result to the amount of the lattice energy. Meaning to say the lattice energy is dependent on the amount of the electrostatic force between these ions. Okay? Now, size and the charge of these ions are the factors that can affect the value of the lattice energy. Okay? The size of the ions and also the charge of these ions can affect the value of this lattice energy. Okay, so let's have an example. So as we know, as the size of the ion increases, okay, the lattice energy becomes less exothermic. Okay, as the size of the ion increases, the lattice energy becomes less exothermic. Okay, now I have a question before we move on. May I ask Yeski? Yeski?
Yes.
Okay, um in the halides or in the group
Uh,
7 ions, which ion has the smallest size?
the small size. Fluorine.
Fluorine. And the largest will be,
Uh, the donors. The wait.
oh, by now you should know the pattern, right? We have discussed the group 17, right?
Uh,
Which one?
Asti.
Astatine, right? Okay, but usually we don't include astatine in our discussion, and we have discussed it already. So aside from astatine, which one?
Iodine.
Iodine, right? That's correct, iodine. Now tell me, Yeski, um, what is the pattern of the size or the trend of
Mm,
the ionic size down the group?
getting bigger.
Getting bigger.
Uh,
Now, knowing that, as the size of the ion increases, the lattice energy becomes less exothermic. What do you think? What do you think is the trend of being exothermic down the group?
getting decrease or smaller.
Okay, it becomes lesser. No, as you go down the group in the halide ion, it becomes less exothermic. Okay, very good. Yes, Keith. Thank you so much. So the lattice energy, because it's becoming less exothermic, right? So the lattice energy gets less exothermic as the size of the anion increases from fluoride to iodide. Okay, ha? Get that idea. Remember, the lattice energy is affected by the electrostatic force, the attraction between the ions. Now, as the size of the ions become bigger, it becomes less exothermic. Okay? Take note of that. Now, the reason why is this is due to the decrease in the charge density, okay, with the same ionic charge. So as the same charge is spread over a large volume, resulting in a weaker electrostatic forces of attraction in the ionic lattice. Okay, so because as you become bigger, okay, the charge density becomes, okay, it also decrease the attraction from the nucleus and to the from the nucleus to the outer shell, right? Because the size is become bigger, okay? So it results to a weaker electrostatic force of attraction in the ionic lattice. Okay? That explains why, like for example, we have sodium fluoride and sodium iodide. Which do you think will have a greater electrostatic force between sodium fluoride and sodium iodide? Brenda?
Uh, iodide,
Sorry?
iodide,
Which will
sodium
have
iodide,
which will have a stronger electrostatic force? Sodium fluoride or sodium iodide?
uh, sodium fluoride, fluoride.
Sodium fluoride. Okay. Now, may I ask Charlotte, how about you? What is your opinion? Which one will have the greater electrostatic attraction between the ions? Sodium fluoride or sodium iodide? Charlotte? Charlotte, are you with us? Okay, sorry for that. I got lost in translation. Okay. Now, a while ago, I asked Brenda, which of the two ionic compound has the greater electrostatic force? Sodium fluoride or sodium iodide? Brenda said it is sodium fluoride. How about you, Charlotte? What is your idea?
Also sodium fluoride.
Also sodium fluoride. Okay. May I ask, what's your idea?
I think sodium fluoride as well.
Also sodium fluoride. Okay. Galen, how about you? What's your idea?
Sodium fluoride.
Also sodium fluoride. Fanny, how about you?
Sodium chloride.
Sodium, sorry?
Sodium chloride.
So I have given sodium fluoride and sodium iodide. Which one?
Fluoride.
Fluoride,
Fluoride.
sodium fluoride. Ah, okay. Majority says sodium fluoride will have a stronger electrostatic force. And basically, your answer is right. That's correct. Huh? Because, just like what we have said, okay, as you go bigger, what happened is that the electrostatic force or the nuclear charge will decrease, right? I mean, the density of the charge, okay. So it becomes decreased, so it becomes lesser, now it becomes weaker. Okay, now, okay, so how about if we have, okay, where are we? Okay, what about if we have sodium fluoride and lithium fluoride? Sodium fluoride and lithium fluoride. Which one has the strongest or stronger attraction? Sodium fluoride or lithium fluoride? Let's ask Abel.
Lithium fluoride.
Lithium fluoride. What is the trend of the ionic size as you go down the group 1 metals?
Getting bigger.
Huh? As you go down the group?
Bigger.
Become bigger. So in this case, to compare lithium fluoride and sodium fluoride, which one do you think will have a greater electrostatic force? You said lithium fluoride.
Sodium fluoride. No, sodium fluoride.
Okay. Try to recall. Where can we find lithium and where can we find sodium? Oh, look at your periodic table.
Yeah, lithium is above sodium.
And what is the trend of the atomic size as you go down the group for the group 1 metals?
Bigger.
Bigger. Okay, so in other words, okay, just like what you have said,
Yes. Sodium, lithium chloride.
Okay, so sodium fluoride has less exothermic lattice energy than the lithium fluoride. So mean to say, sodium fluoride has weaker electrostatic force compared to lithium fluoride. Okay, so I hope that that's clear, huh? It's clear that the size of the ion affects the value of the lattice energy. Okay, next. Now here, it will help us to understand more having or looking at this graph. Here we have the ions, metal ions, and here we have the anions, cations and the anions, and also their sizes, no, the atomic or the ionic, sorry, ionic sizes or ionic radii. Okay, so for any given anion, let's say fluoride, the lattice energy gets less exothermic as the size of the cation increases from lithium down to cesium. So lithium fluoride, okay, this is the lattice energy. Lithium fluoride and sodium fluoride, this is the lattice energy. Potassium fluoride, rubidium fluoride, cesium fluoride. So, okay, so as you can see here, no? As you go down the group, as the size gets bigger, okay, the exothermic energy becomes lesser. Okay? Now, for any given cation such as lithium, the lattice energy gets less exothermic as well as the size of the anion becomes bigger from fluoride to iodide. Okay, so let's say lithium plus fluoride, here is the lattice enthalpy. Lithium and lithium chloride, this is the lattice enthalpy. Lithium bromide and lithium iodide. Okay, so this graph shows us that depending on the size, okay, the greater the size of the ions, the lesser it becomes exothermic. The lesser the lattice energy. Okay? Okay? I hope that that's clear. Okay, can we move on now? Okay, the next factor to consider, so in other words, the lattice energy becomes more exothermic, stronger ionic bond form as the ionic charge increases. Okay? Okay? So, higher charge density. Okay, so another factor is the ionic charge. Okay, so the greater the ionic charge, the stronger the electrostatic force or the stronger the ionic bond. Okay. Suppose we have here lithium fluoride and magnesium oxide. Now we know that magnesium has a greater lattice energy than the lithium fluoride. Magnesium oxide has a greater lattice energy because, as we know, magnesium ion has 2 plus and oxygen and the oxide ion has 2 minus. So they have higher ionic charges. So if they have higher ionic charges, meaning the attraction is stronger. Okay? So doubly charged of magnesium ion and oxide ions in magnesium oxide attract each other more strongly than the singly charged ions of the same size, which is in lithium fluoride. Okay? Now, like for example, given the fact that they have the same size, However, another factor that we consider is the ionic charges. Okay? So for ions of similar size, we have to take note that the greater the ionic charge, the higher the charge density. And this results in stronger ionic bonds being formed. Okay? So this is the second factor. Ionic charge. Okay? Now let's have some examples. Where's my example? Oh, okay. Okay. Later. Okay. Now, so do you have any question? So these are the two factors that affect the value of the lattice energy. The size of the ion and the charge of the ion. The greater the charge, the lesser the electrostatic force, the lesser the lattice energy. The greater the ionic charge, the greater the electrostatic force, the greater the lattice energy. Okay. Any question? Do you have any question? Any question? Do you understand the concept? Will D, do you have any question, Will D?
None.
Is it clear, Will D?
70%.
70%. So what's that 30% which is not clear? So like for example, Will D, like for example, we have, let's say sodium oxide and magnesium oxide. Which one has the greater lattice energy?
The
Sodium oxide or magnesium oxide?
sodium.
Sorry?
Sodium.
Sodium. Which has a greater ionic charge? Sodium or magnesium?
I think sodium.
Where can we find sodium? In which group? In which group can we find sodium?
One.
How about magnesium?
Group 2.
What is the charge of sodium?
+1.
What is the charge of magnesium?
+2.
Which has the higher ionic charge?
Magnesium.
Sorry?
Magnesium.
So therefore, which has a greater lattice energy? The sodium oxide or magnesium oxide?
Oh, magnesium.
Magnesium oxide, right? Okay.
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Oh, another example. We have magnesium oxide and calcium oxide.
The same.
The same. The same. Let me see, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Everybody, I want you to listen as I talk to Wildy, huh? Which one has a smaller ionic radius? Magnesium or calcium?
Magnesium.
Magnesium. Magnesium. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Less electron.
Less electron?
Hmm?
Less electron.
Huh? Yeah.
It has less electron. Where can we find magnesium? In what period can we find magnesium? In what period can we find calcium?
Magnesium is period 3 and calcium is period 4.
Ah, okay. Meaning to say, in the group, magnesium comes first, right?
Yeah.
And magnesium has a smaller. We said that as you go down the group, the ionic radius becomes bigger, right? So magnesium has smaller.
Smaller. Yeah.
So when magnesium forms magnesium oxide and calcium forms calcium oxide, which one has the greater lattice energy? Or which one has the greater electrostatic attraction?
I think calcium.
Calcium. Calcium is bigger, right?
Yeah.
Than magnesium, right? So the nuclear charge will be stronger when an ion is smaller or bigger?
When it is bigger.
When it is bigger, are you sure? Okay. Who would, please help William D. Which one has a stronger electrostatic force? An ion with a smaller radius or an ion with a bigger radius?
Smaller?
Smaller, right? Because if the ion is smaller, the attraction will be closer, right? Because you're close. So the attraction will be
Yeah.
stronger, right? Unlike if it is farther from you, no, the attraction is lesser, right? Okay. Now, if we have magnesium oxide and calcium oxide, which of the two has a greater lattice energy?
Magnesium oxide
And calcium oxide.
wait.
What did we say here?
As it goes down, gets bigger or smaller, sir?
Which one?
The trend.
Of the
Magnesium oxide and calcium oxide.
let's look back with group 1 metals. As you go down the group, the size becomes bigger, right? The size become bigger of
Yeah.
the ions. As the size become bigger, it becomes less attractive, meaning the electrostatic force becomes lesser, right? So,
Yeah.
in our example a while ago, lithium fluoride and sodium fluoride are compared. So, looking at their lattice energy, we can say that lithium fluoride has a higher lattice energy than sodium fluoride. Okay. Now, my example now is magnesium oxide and calcium oxide.
So magnesium is smaller.
Yeah.
Means that magnesium has bigger electrostatic force.
Or stronger electrostatic force.
Yeah.
So which one has a stronger, has a higher lattice energy? Magnesium oxide or calcium oxide?
Magnesium.
Sorry?
Magnesium.
Oh, huh?
Magnesium.
Magnesium?
Oh, calcium, yeah.
Calcium? Did you hear my question? Which?
Magnesium oxide, yeah.
Magnesium oxide. Okay. Not magnesium, magnesium oxide. Okay? Wildy, is it still difficult to, I mean, is it still not clear for you? Wildy?
No, it's better.
It's better. Okay. Okay, anyhow, so I'm going to give you your 5-minute break. After 5 minutes, let's talk again. Okay? 5-minute break. Okay, welcome back. Okay, turn on now your cameras, please. Okay. So let's say we have a cation and an anion. Okay, so when they combine together, okay, of course that there is what you call electrostatic force, no? That's the attraction between these between these ions. Okay. Now the positive charge, which is the cation, okay, in an ionic lattice may attract the electrons the electrons in the anion. Okay. Now remember, in the anion, the electrons are found in the valence shells, right? Now, the charge of the cation may attract the electrons that are found in the anion. Now, this will result to the distortion, okay? Distortion of the electron cloud. So it's not spherical, but it will become a little bit distorted, okay? A little bit distorted. Okay. Now, this is what you call ion polarization. Okay. Now, the ability of the cation to attract electrons and distort an ion is called the polarizing power of the cation. It's just like this. Uh, there is this cation and then there's this anion. Now, the electrons in the anion are basically, they are really attracted to the nucleus of the anion. However, when the cation comes into contact with the anion, some of the electrons will be attracted to the cation. Okay. So the electron cloud will a little bit, distorted. No, it will become a little bit distorted and not as spherical as we know. Okay. So, like for example, in this figure, a small highly charged cation can distort the shape of an ion. Okay, can distort the shape of the anion. Okay, like this. Now, what are the factors that affect the ion polarization? Okay. Now, the degree of polarization of an ion depends on the following. First, the charge density of the cation. Okay. The charge density of the cation. How strong is the nucleus of the cation? Okay. Second, the ease with which an ion can be polarized. Okay. Meaning, is it easy for the electrons of the anion to be polarized? Okay. Is it easy, or are the electrons of the anion intact and cannot be polarized? No, it depends on that. Third, okay. So for the anion is more likely to be polarized if the cation is small, the cation has a charge of 2+ or 3+, and the anion is large, right? If the cation is small, meaning the charge density is high, right? Right? Now, if the cation has charge of 2+ or 3+, meaning there are more excess protons, then the charge density is also high. right? Now, if the anion is large, meaning to say the electrons of the anion, the valence electrons of the anion, will be farther from the nucleus. So it can easily be attracted to the cation. Okay. And also, an ion has a charge of 2 minus or 3 minus. Okay, this will make an ion to become more polarized. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's try to look at this one. Okay, we have sodium plus, magnesium 2 plus, and aluminum 3 plus. And we have a common anion, which is chloride. Now, compare the nuclear charge of these three ions or cations. We say that aluminum has the greatest charge, which is 3 plus, right? So in this case, aluminum can easily polarize, okay, the chloride ion. Okay. Now, let's say we have aluminum 3 plus as our cation, and we have fluoride, chloride, and bromide. Now, since bromide has the greatest radii or largest radius, rather, okay, so it can easily be polarized by aluminum. Okay. So a small highly charged cation such as aluminum 3 plus can attract electrons and distort a larger anion to such an extent that the bond, take note of this, okay, that the bond formed has a considerable amount of covalent character. Okay. Now, in this case, if the electron cloud of the anion has been distorted closer to the cation, now this compound, which will have a considerably amount of covalent character, okay, they will have a covalent character. Now, if you notice, there are also covalent compounds which exhibit ionic character. Okay, especially if they have a very high electrostatic attraction. Okay, so in this case, now this aluminum ion can distort the bromide ion, okay, to form or to have a covalent character. Okay. Now, pure ionic bonding and pure covalent bonding are extremes. We have here ionic bonding and covalent bonding, right? Now, many ionic compounds have some covalent character due to the ion polarization, due to the distortion of the ions. And there are many covalent compounds have some degree of what you call charge separation. Okay, and these are the polar compounds. Okay, and this is due to the bond polarization. So in other words, there are compounds which are ionic compound, extremely ionic compound. There are extremely covalent compounds, especially the non-polar covalent compounds. But there are compounds, ionic compounds with covalent character due to the distortion of the ions. And there are covalent compounds which are polarized. That's why they are called polar covalent compound. That, in some degree, they have charge separation. Okay. Stronger polar compound or covalent compound. Okay? Do you have any question? None so far? Okay, ha? Okay, take note. Take note. Okay, take note that due to ion polarization, some ionic compounds may exhibit a covalent character, okay, which is also true for the covalent compounds. No? If the covalent compounds have or has a strong polarity, then it could exhibit a degree of being an ionic compound. Okay? So like for example, hydrogen chloride or HCl. Okay. HCl is a covalent compound. However, because of, of a high degree of charge separation, okay, now it can consider as a highly polar covalent compound. Okay? Okay. Now, because of these distortions, these ion polarization, this could also result to what you called thermal stability. Okay, we have discussed this already, no, when we discussed period 2. If I'm not mistaken, we have discussed this already. No? However, period 2, group 2, sorry. Okay. However, okay, we're going to look back, no, at this thermal stability of group 2 carbonates and nitrates. Okay? I hope that you still remember this. Now, group 2 carbonates decompose to their oxides and carbon dioxide when they are heated. So, calcium carbonate will decompose into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Now, the trend is that the further down the group, the higher the temperature required to decompose the carbonate. Okay? The higher the temperature required to decompose the carbonate. Okay. So what does it mean? It means to say that as you go down the group, okay, the group 2 carbonates becomes more thermal stable or heat stable, something like that, no? In other words, no? But we use thermal stability. Okay. So like for example here, we have magnesium carbonate, calcium carbonate, strontium carbonate, and barium carbonate. Now, the composition temperature, it requires 540 degrees Celsius. And the energy needed is about 117 kilojoules per mole. Now, for calcium carbonate, 900 degrees Celsius, the energy needed is plus 176 kilojoules per mole, and so on and so forth. So for barium carbonate, it requires a higher temperature because it needs more energy, okay, to decompose into oxides and carbon dioxide. So when heated, the group 2 metal carbonates decompose to form metal oxide and the carbon dioxide gas, right? So when we split the compounds using the heat, okay, we call that thermal decomposition. Okay. So this is a thermal decomposition. And the group 2 carbonates become more stable to thermal decomposition going down the group. Okay. So meaning to say, barium carbonate is the most stable when it comes to thermal decomposition. They don't decompose easily, in other words. Magnesium carbonate can easily decompose. Okay. Now, this is due to the carbonate ion has a relatively large ionic radius. So it is easily polarized by a small, highly charged cation ion. So as we know, the group 2 cations increase the ionic radius down the group, right? So the smaller the ionic radius of the cation, the better it is at polarizing the carbonate ion, right? Okay. So magnesium can polarize the carbonate ion. Calcium, lesser. Okay, right? So in this case, since magnesium has a stronger polarizing ability, okay, than the rest of the group 2 element, group 2 cation, it can easily, okay, decompose into, oh, this is the polarizing, into metal oxide and carbon dioxide. Right? So the degree of polarizing of carbonate ion by the group 2 cation follows. No? Magnesium, the highest, it has the highest polarizing capability. Now, the greater the polarization of the carbonate ion, the easier it is to weaken the carbon-oxygen bond between here, no? In the carbonate, and to form carbon dioxide and the metal oxide. Okay? So that is why as you go down the group, okay, here, as you know, barium carbonate is more stable compared to magnesium carbonate. Because in this case, magnesium carbonate can easily be decomposed because magnesium can polarize, okay, can polarize the oxygen atom, okay, to form the metal or the magnesium oxide and carbon dioxide. Okay? Actually, we have discussed this already, no, during the group 2 discussion. Okay, now this is also true for the decomposition of the group 2 nitrates. Okay, this is also true in the decomposition of group 2 nitrates. Now, thermal decomposition of group 2 metal nitrates forms the metal oxide, nitrogen dioxide, and oxygen. Okay. So, like the group 2 metal carbonates, the nitrates become more stable to thermal decomposition down the group. Magnesium nitrate can easily form into magnesium oxide, nitrogen gas, nitrogen dioxide, and oxygen than the barium nitrate. Again, why? Again, why? Because magnesium has the greatest polarizing capability, ionic polarizing capability, no? To polarize oxygen closer to magnesium. That's why it can easily be decomposed. Okay? So here we have sodium, magnesium nitrate. It can form to magnesium oxide, nitrogen gas, and oxygen gas. So the order of stability for the thermal stability will be barium nitrate greater than strontium nitrate, greater than calcium nitrate, and greater than the magnesium nitrate, which is also true of the order of stability for the group 2 carbonates. Okay. Okay. And the reason why, because of the what's the reason why of this order of stability for the thermal stability is because, okay, the smaller the ionic radius of the metal, it can cause a greater polarizing capability, okay, for the anion. I mean to the anion. Okay, so that's the point. Okay, Is there any question? Any question with the ion polarization? Any question? Okay, so for this morning, what we have discussed is about the ion polarization of the cation and also the factors that affect the value of the lattice energy. Okay, now we said that the smaller the size of the ion, the greater it becomes more exothermic and the greater the lattice energy. Okay, and also another factor is the charge. The greater the charge, the greater the lattice energy. Okay, and then we also discussed about the ion polarization capability of the cation. Okay. Now here, the smaller the size, the greater it can attract the or polarize the anion, and the greater the charge, the greater it can also polarize the anion. Okay, so basically that's the summary of what we have discussed for today. Okay, is there any question? I hope that the lesson is clear because this is a very easy lesson.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, since you don't have any question, therefore, dan. Okay, wait for a while. I'll stop this one. Okay. Are you sure that you don't have any question, huh? Okay, now since you don't have any question, I believe that this afternoon we're supposed to have our assignment, right? Am I right? Am I right? We're supposed to have our assignment today. Naj?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
In the Google Calendar, yes.
Yes. Okay. So for these, morning until this afternoon, okay, I'm going to give you your assignment. So you can start working with this worksheet. Okay. And the submission will be this afternoon. So you still have time to finish this worksheet. Okay, wait, I'll just upload it. Wait for a while. Okay. So I want you to work with this worksheet and you have to submit this on or before 3 o'clock this afternoon. Okay. So please check our Google Classroom and you will see that there is this worksheet that I want you to do. Okay. Now, please, whenever you look for references, okay, please rephrase the thought. Don't just copy directly from the book or from your references. Okay? So in answering your worksheets or even answering some essay questions or answering questions which will require you to search from outside resources, please rephrase. Okay, do not just copy and paste. Okay, just like what you have done during the CA, you copied from I don't know where, and you didn't notice that there is this typographical error, and you copied it and you shared it to your classmates. I told you, no, I have seen some of you doing that thing. Okay. So I don't need to name that person or those persons, but please, no, next time when you copy, change it. I can't help myself but to share this one. Another observation that I was really laughing when I was checking your CA. There this answer, which is obviously copied from other person or from wherever. The question is about this. The person answered this. This is the first question. The second question is this, and the person answered this. So the person switched the answers. I don't know what happened there. Obviously, it was, but it was just been those answers has just been copied. Were being copied. Okay. Please, ha. I've been trying to become more generous and more considerate, but you know, if you will keep on doing such thing, okay, that is not really good. Okay? You're fooling yourself. You're not fooling me. You're fooling yourselves. Okay? So tip, whenever you copy, please rephrase or write down what you have understood from your references. Okay? So that's it for today. Okay, finish the worksheet, and late submissions will not be, I will not give consideration. Late submission will be late. Deductions will be given to you. Okay? Okay, do you have any question before we end this meeting? Any question? None? If there's none, therefore, see you when I see you. God bless. Bye-bye. Thank you for coming to my class. Bye-bye. God bless. God bless you. Bye.